All right, now welcome back. Those were packages, following the elections in Ghana by our correspondents Bernard Ikede and also Afia Hagen. Now, just before we go ahead, we have two guests joining us. We have Sam Nartey George, Member of Parliament, Ningo Pram constituency, Ghana, and we also have Dr. David Matsanga, Africa Affairs Analyst, joining us on the conversation today. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. All right, I'm told only Dr. Matsanga has been able to join us.
With my internet, I don't know in this place. I don't know, but I hope you are hearing me.
Yes, I can hear you, Dr. Matsanga. Thank you for joining us once again. All right, so now let's speak about, John Dramani Mahama's victory. It marks a historic comeback, especially after falling short in the 2016 and 2020 elections. Now, what is it about this particular election cycle that allowed him to secure such a decisive win?
I think I have been in Ghana for some time, and I've been observing election trends. I observed the elections in which he lost some time back, 4 years ago, and I'm happy. I have been following his type of leadership, the way he has been appealing to people, and we are saying something different regarding the economy. The politics is very stable, but the economy is what has brought all these changes and this voting pattern that you see today.
All right, now, what does his third bid for the presidency tell us about Ghana's political culture and also his ability to remain a dominant figure in Ghanaian politics?
I think Ghanaians have grown out of the strength. I am proud about to be associated with people of Ghana whose elections end peacefully without anybody dying on the streets of Accra. I'm proud to be associated with such an African country where the loser concedes immediately. The loser and the winner work together towards national harmony. That is the type of democracy. If we are to build and follow the Western type of democracy, that's the type of democracy Africa should adopt.
All right, Dr. Matsanga, Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia conceded defeat quite swiftly, very, very quickly, stating that, the people have voted for change at this time and that they must respect it with all humility. How significant is this concession?
I think that is a very great concession for Africa to learn a lesson from. Let's see that Africa has to keep this lesson, learn from this lesson, understand that getting out on the streets, calling on people to go and break things on the streets of any capital city because of the election, however bad it is, does not bring us any joy. The things that happen in other countries have not happened in Ghana. And in fact, I was very impressed with President Nana Addo when the Vice President himself said, according to their own data collection center, which is the ruling party collection center, they had lost an election. That is something you cannot hear about in Africa. And then they have 1 seat, parliamentary seats. That means they have something to hang on. They have the parliament, more members of parliament in parliament, and the president has swept the presidential, election, victory. So the president has to work together. And this brings to what Matsanga has been saying all along, Osman. I have been telling people we need a redemption strategy in Africa. Africa needs politics of reconciliation, dialogue, a politics of national conversation, a national conversation, not individual conversations. So you can see the trend. The parliament is in the hands of the ruling party. The presidential is in the hands of the opposition. There you need a ruling party, a conversation of opening up conversation regarding the nature of politics, the nature of governance, the nature of how you want Ghana to be administered, how you want Ghana to be, governed. Remember, I am one of the advocates of wanting to remove this 50+1 and then taking people to court, or after this you go to court, you waste time after you have told 20 million people to vote, then you take them to court. Let Africa change governance systems, the systems that have now produced a parliament in the hands of the ruling party, the governance of the presidency in the hands of opposition, of John Mahama.
All right, now, Dr. Matanga, I actually asked the previous question about the concession because we know that despite, the significant results, the obvious results, the Electoral Commission has yet to announce official final results. So in this case, how do you assess the integrity of Ghana's electoral process and also the maturity of Ghana's democracy?
First of all, is maturity. Dosman, let's look here. There is, if you look at the votes, the remaining seats, even if you go to near Angel Gabriel and tell people that you have come to find out how many seats we shall get, shall we overturn Mahama's victory? It's impossible. So the ruling party, the vice president was correct, was right, 100% right, to say enough is enough, let me cross over and congratulate my future president-elect. That smoothness is what is lacking in several African countries. That smoothness is what is killing most of these countries in Africa, where they don't have it, like Mozambique. You see, up to now in Mozambique, blood is on the streets. Police and the rioters and the protesters, pro-democratic supporters who want a review of electoral systems and who want a repeat of what took place, saying the election was rigged.
Well, Dr. Masanga, speaking of the smoothness, how important is, peaceful transfer of power in Africa?
It is very important. The peaceful transfer of power in Africa is important if we are to get any political, social, and economic enhancement. We need smooth transfer of power. We need silent a culture. We must bring in a culture of handing over power peacefully, not handing over power in piecemeals, not handing over power in armed struggle, not going to the bush, not going to harass people. Most of these wars in Africa spring as a result of badly managed elections, badly organized elections, sees smooth transition. Someone calling someone and say, hey, I am here. You have won, even from my own side, I have lost. That is what Africa needs now if we are to change all things to make lives better for our people. We must start talking and thinking together, not to have riots, destruction of property after elections, during and before elections.
Okay. Now, if you were to, because earlier you were actually talking before, you were saying something about, you're trying to compare some African countries and Ghana. So if you could, just briefly, how does the Ghanaian electoral system, compare to some African countries, especially in terms of transparency and fairness? Just briefly.
I think Ghana's electors, the voters were educated. That's why you have not seen any complaints. There is enough voter education. That's one of the give to Ghana Electoral Commission. They do quite a lot of electoral education, civic education. In fact, they have leaflets. That the last elections I was in Ghana, you could find leaflets everywhere. Everywhere. People were educated. There was a lady there called, the chairperson called Nana. Before this person came in, this lady did a great job those days. And the civic education in Ghana is at highest. People, another thing is people always talk to, as a family. They talk, even members of constituencies, they sit together, they eat together, they drink together, they walk together. That type of life is compared to none that we see apart from South Africa, where the smooth transition, Tanzania, where smooth transition, and another country which has smooth transition, Botswana, we have seen that smooth transition. So the rest of Africa, there is a bumpy ride after the voting stations are closed.
Okay. Dr. Masanga, now let's quickly touch on, Ghana's economy. Now, the country's economic difficulties, including a debt default and also inflation, were central to the campaign. How significant were these factors, in shaping the electorate's decision?
I think I was in Ghana a few months ago, or about 6 months ago. Inflation was one of the economy was one of the key factors that all Ghanaians agreed something had to be done to improve the economy. And as you know, Ghana already has declared itself not able to pay some of the loans. But let's look at why pick on Ghana. Why pick on Ghana alone? It's because IMF and other world bodies, if you do disagree with them on a number of things, they tend to hurt you. They hurt you indirectly. And I think they did hurt President Nana Addo because he spoke out. You remember when he spoke out against Macron on African issues being dictated by France. So the economy in Ghana was very, very one of the most touching areas where every Ghanaian was not in agreement with what the government was doing. So the government found itself on a wrong footing on the question of economy, with inflation hitting almost reaching a state of bankruptcy, which could have brought us debt. Was not manageable, serviceable. Things became like any other African country. Ghana faces the challenges that other countries do face. But in one of the things that I credit President Nana Addo and his administration is to tame corruption. They tamed corruption, that you don't find too much corruption like other states, especially neighboring states. I don't want to mention them here so that they stop us from having our interviews.
That's fine.
But some of the states neighboring there, and East Africa and several other places in Africa, corruption has rampantly destroyed the moral fabric of most of the states. So that is one of the points, the key points that actually wanted to bring us, that brought down Nana Addo and his, candidate. The candidate of the vice president, he couldn't win on the economy. I think Mahama came up with some proposals that were acceptable to the Ghanaians, and they said, let's see, let's hope. What you need to change the economy? You need to change the economy by running quite very far away trying to get people taxation is what is killing most of the states in Africa. There are things that we should start taxing. We should tax, for example, we should look at visa.
Dr. Masanga, you did say that, Mahama's plan of addressing the economic issues, was, different from what the ruling party actually came up with, and people were comfortable with that. So are you saying that, the IMF bailout wasn't enough to stabilize, or isn't enough to stabilize Ghana's economy?
I think it is not enough. The IMF alone cannot stabilize the Ghanaian economy. IMF will lead you to a military coup. My sister, there is nowhere in Africa where IMF has stabilized an economy. Show me one. Since Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown because of IMF coming in, giving conditions, and several riots took place in Zambia and where IMF, wherever it goes, please, it is a very bad pattern. It always brings you chaos. It tells you to restructure. It tells you to do fiscal programs, to change money, to change this, to retrench people, cut off the police. Where do these policemen go? They become rebels.
But some critics seem to think that, external factors, including international creditors, and the global economy played a role in this particular election. Do you agree?
I do agree, because Mahama is very well known, very well liked by international agencies. And compared to the current system of President Nana Addo, we have to be very honest that he is more, listens more to, or they have more confidence they have more confidence in Nana, in the Mahama. They didn't, because President Nana was straightforward, and he could tell them off. He could say, enough is enough. If you don't want, get out. But I think we shall wait and see what Mahama will do. Will he rely on the external factors? Will he abandon the external factors? Will he change? Will he go to China way? Because America, as you are aware, America promises but never delivers. If you have a promise from America, please look for something else to do before that promise arrives in your country. So he has got to change. He has got to look for funds elsewhere. He has got to tell Ghanaians what type of austerity measures is he going to introduce in his budgetary, in his budgets, in the fiscal, monetary policies. What is he going to do that will bring about a conducive climate amongst them? So this, amongst the Ghanaians, if that is not done, it will continue as usual. They will start blaming him. But all in all, the voters in Africa seem to be tired. They seem to be tired of the governments that are in power. And if you hold
now still talking about the government in power, the presidential candidate and present Vice President Bawumia's campaign focused on breaking the eight, seeking to secure a third consecutive term, for the NPP. Now, what would you say went wrong for the ruling party in this particular election, and why did they fail to capitalize, on their past successes or even the power of incumbency?
There are several factors. Wind of change, the wind that is sweeping across Africa. That's a very key important thing. The mood, opinion, Botswana, another country. My God, that wind of change, the new, what we could call .com operations of the younger generation that are sweeping, saying we need new ideas. That is one factor. The second factor is, of course, if the economy falls fails in your hands, however much you convince people, however much your policy politically are, however much good politics or good politician you are, and you have another economy reeling, bleeding under your hands, you can never survive anything in an election. So that one, the economy started falling apart. It hit the ruling party. The ruling party decided we are not very firm in dealing with economic woes of the people of Ghana. That created them the problem, and that could create a problem to any government at the moment now. Even if you put an election in Nigeria today, I don't think people will vote the way they voted in 2023, or they will not. The way they voted, they will vote differently, because there are so many things that have gone wrong, so many pledges that have not been fulfilled because of the conditions that affect externally and internally. External conditions like the prices of oil, crude oil, the war in Ukraine, the war in the Middle East, the military coups around your region, and so many other things have played part. Do we need to go that way? Do we need to go this way? That is the question. Also, the power rivalry between the West and the Russia and China. You know, China is making a stronghold, and China has made good inroads in Ghana as far as the economy, mining, and other, economic activities. So it has, changed so many things, but they couldn't change more than that. They couldn't sell the manifesto. Their manifesto was a very good manifesto. And you remember, out of Ghana, we have got now two leaders leading the world, the president-elect and the elect, and the Secretary General of the Commonwealth elect, my good friend, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, currently. She's the Secretary General of Commonwealth, something that I wanted so much to happen when I am still alive on earth.
Oh, well, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we will discuss more on this, Dr. Matsanga. Do stay with us.